Hey guys, welcome back to BackPocketGameReviews, and this is the Star Wars review with spoilers. So if you are wanting the spoiler-free movie review, this is not the review you are looking for. It was the one posted before this. So let's go ahead and dive into this now that all of you should have left that did not want the spoilers. So, Star Wars, as I said in the spoiler-free one, did an amazing job with pacing and making every part feel interesting and valuable to the story. Now, a lot of that you can't really describe very well without giving certain stuff away. And I mean, there are so many pivotal moments in this movie that really tie it in and kind of continue the story that we got in Force Awakens. Obviously, Rey is searching for Luke to train her. She then starts to show certain tendencies that make her a little more susceptible to the dark side, which is very interesting because a lot of Jedis have actually leaned towards being able to embrace parts of the dark side, Mace Windu and his fighting style specifically, which take him very close to a dark side leaning kind of character. But there's also a thing called gray Jedis, which they talk about in the EU. Not every Jedi is just this bright pillar of light, which is something this movie started to kind of delve into, which we haven't seen in the Star Wars movie franchise yet. Now, I do think there are some really funny moments where obviously they develop Luke even a little more, talking about how he was training Kylo Ren, where he went wrong with Kylo Ren, and why he feels like he kind of betrayed and let down Kylo, and why he weighs that so heavily and outcast himself, which is also very interesting because Jedi Outcast is another part of the EU. Not specifically talking about Luke, we're specifically talking about the Second Jedi Academy and stuff like that. Play the games. There's Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy. Another great part of the extended universe. However, the best part of the movie to me was where Yoda shows up. You know, blue ghost form, force manipulated Yoda appears. And it's fantastic because this is kind of what I was talking about, where it's practical and CGI effects. The CGI Yoda that they actually animate is more like the puppet Yoda than it is the episode 1, 2, and 3 Yoda, which was really cool for me to see. You also get to see him laugh and hear Yoda's beautiful, beautiful Yoda voice again. And he gives Luke some very strong words of advice, kind of guiding him along in the series. But then, you know, Luke's kind of regarding these Jedi texts, and Yoda tells him, look, we're not perfect, we're flawed. The Jedi as a whole were flawed. And it's really interesting because they actually acknowledge Jedi as a religion in this. Luke says it. And Luke even earlier had explained to Rey that the Jedi were flawed and how they let Sidious rise to power right under their nose. But somehow Yoda still had to kind of come along and kind of kick Luke in the backside to make him realize that, hey, this isn't necessarily your fault. A great teacher also teaches through failure. He also sets fire to the Jedi tree, which was hilarious, and even more so after he laughs while doing it. But that's kind of what makes Yoda great, is sometimes Yoda's that voice of clarity while not always being the most clear. And that's the other thing about this movie, is they do so much to flesh out these characters and give you these insights. Yoda wasn't someone I thought I was going to see in this. I actually made a joke to my son saying I thought it would be funny if Yoda reared his green little head again. And sure enough, there he was. I feel the only thing that I have complaint-wise was Phasma was still very briefly in it. I mean, we're talking like as briefly as she was in episode 7, and you really don't know what happened to her. There's still questions that never get answered, and from the way that they kind of finished the movie off, may never actually get answered. Snoke dies. We literally watch Kylo Ren cut him in half in a very cheap manner, because Kylo Ren established much earlier on in the movies that he's more powerful. He was much more powerful in the Force. But then you also get to see the Snoke's Red Guard, which is kind of cool because even Palpatine had a Red Guard. And if you ever played the Force Unleashed games, they're acknowledged in there. They're even acknowledged in some of the books. The Red Guard are actually protected kind of from Force abilities by their armor. Just like how Palpatine also had droids that were capable of blocking Force abilities. You see those in episode 3. But the Red Guard are pretty sweet. And it's probably one of the best fight scenes outside of Luke and Kylo's. There are going to be a lot of developmental features with Poe. I mean, you literally get to see Poe grow as a character in this. They're going to show you more. I love when they use the word flyboy, by the way. And there's going to be parts that you don't see coming. Like, I thought Leia was dead. There was a part in that movie where I was 100% sure she was dead. I figured they would kill Leia. Like, that was the part I really thought was going to happen. Because Carrie Fisher's dead. Kill her off as a character. But no, she's still alive. They did a beautiful job with keeping her in the movie. And I didn't really foresee Luke dying. Especially at the end of the fight when I was like, oh man, Luke wasn't even there. And I don't know if he overexerted himself. Maybe it's like Hinduism where he finally became one with everything. He's just so atoned with the Force now, which I'm sure we will be getting blue-spirited Luke, who will be there with Rey at some point. Now, there are some other points during this movie that I don't necessarily know which route they're going to go. They kind of hint towards Rey's parents being no one, but we've also had hints in Disney Infinity that essentially stated that Kylo Ren was probably her cousin. Maybe she's a Skywalker, but Snoke even kind of hints that she isn't a Skywalker. There's a part during it where Snoke goes, I always figured it would be a Skywalker to raise up against me, but I guess I was wrong. Declaring that she's not a Skywalker, Kylo also says your parents were no one, but that could also be him trying to seduce her to the dark side and play on her fears. Personal opinion there, I could be wrong. That is just me reading into what I feel they might have meant through what they said. Star Wars is very known for hidden meanings and being able to bury things a little deeper than what they necessarily are. But it'll be really interesting to see what route they go with the next movie. Obviously, as I said in my previous review, the spoiler-free one, that, you know, obviously Episode 7 kind of followed the format of A New Hope, and this kind of blended Shadows of the Empire and Return of the Jedi together, but with an interesting twist. You get the end of the Return of the Jedi where Snoke's now dead, without us getting any kind of real answers about Snoke. We had answers about Palpatine, no answers about Snoke, but you essentially are seeing Vader rise to power at the end of Return of the Jedi now. This is like a what if Vader would have killed Palpatine and still would have been so perverted by the dark side, he would have been like, no, Luke, join me. Because you got to watch Vader attempt to seduce Luke over to the dark side. And I couldn't tell you how excited I was to watch all this, because it was like getting to see this hypothetical of what if this did actually happen. But I thought it was fantastic. Also, I have a question for all of you, and you can leave it in the comments down below for me. I did not hear where they said, I have a bad feeling about this. I didn't hear that in this movie, and it could have been a way to differentiate them from the other movies. As I've said, they did a lot of work to try to make the New Order, or the First Order, feel like it was different from the Empire, and to establish this as its own Star Wars franchise, separate from the old series, while still also maintaining the groundwork set up by the old series. They do a lot to keep you on the edge of your seat during this movie. I mean, it was fantastic. Beginning to end, I don't feel like there was any wasted time. It all felt valuable to the story, it all blended well, and one of the greatest visual effects I've ever seen was that cruiser that jumped to light speed and literally crashed through that ship. That was probably the most awesome thing I've ever witnessed in any movie. And there was like no audio for the first part of it. I was sitting there, I was like, what the hell? But it was literally leaving me in shock and awe. I talked about that briefly. There's the sound effects part in my spoiler-free one. That's the moment I was talking about. But guys, let me know what you thought of it. I thought it was an amazing movie, probably one of my favorite Star Wars movies, probably second of all time. We will eventually talk about what is my favorite Star Wars movie and why in another video. But guys, let me know down below where you heard that I have a bad feeling about this. As I said, I could have just missed it. Also, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like. It might encourage me to do more movie reviews in the future. And if you're new to the channel, you can click that subscribe button, stick around, join the community. Enjoy the channel, enjoy the videos. This is content for you, not just for me. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll have plenty more content coming for you, and stick around.